Well, this is going to be one of my favorite podcasts.
Florida, Florida, Florida,
That's
Florida, 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 Florida.
that's the secondary reason we're going to be talking about the great state of Florida, even though I'm not a Floridian. I'm a Floridian at heart. Dad, do you know the main reason why this is going to be one of my favorite podcasts?
Hits a tire.
That's there too, but it's because it's not just you and me. I don't have to sit here and just talk to you. I get to talk to someone else.
You learn so much when it's just me, Jess.
And I also hurt after the podcast too. So, hey, welcome to the Church Answers podcast. My name is Jess Rayner. I'm here with my dad, Thom Rayner, and we're here with a special guest, Braydenton McCormick. Bray, welcome to the podcast.
Guys, it's a pleasure. Been watching for many years. So glad to be here.
Yeah. Well, we're excited because we're going to take a moment out of kind of maybe our regular routine, and we're gonna talk about a story about a church in the Florida Keys that went from almost deceased. Would that be a fair statement, Bray?
Yes, definitely.
Almost deceased. That is now in the process of being revitalized. And so, Bray, we're looking forward to your story, looking forward to hearing about what God has done. And so we're really excited about hearing all of that. But before we jump into it, we want to take a moment and we want to thank one of our sponsors for this podcast. If you've been listening for any amount of time, you know that we love to mention Cheney and Associates. Cheney Associates is the accounting firm for the church. So no matter what church size you are, church budget, doesn't matter. Cheney Associates can help you out with your bookkeeping and finance needs. Go to CheneyAssociates.com/church answers. If you're with us on YouTube, you can click on the link. If you're driving your car, you can just say, "Hey Siri, go to churchanswers.com/church answers and see what they can do for you." They do an amazing job. They want you to lead your church, and they're going to do so by helping handle the numbers. They love the church. In fact, they started a whole new podcast called the Church Advisory Podcast, so that they can just help out church with administrative and financial matters. So thank you to Cheney Associates. We love you. We love partnering with you.
So let's start off this way, Bray. Tell us your story related to the church. When did you come? You're in the Keys. Which key are you in? Give us a little bit of the demographics and how you ended up there. I really want to hear the story. We don't talk to a lot of people who ended up pastoring in the Keys.
Well, I'm actually from Anniston, Alabama. I think we have that in common. My first church was Hillcrest Baptist there in Anniston.
I remember Hillcrest. Did you
And
know
then
two Rayner sons were born in Anniston?
I've heard the story. That's really cool.
At Regional Medical, Jess was the outlier.
Two of my children were too. So,
well, if
cool.
you have a third, that one will be the best because they're born outside of Anniston. So I mean, just the born outside are better. So
that's right. So Hillcrest. Then I went full time at Leatherwood Baptist Church just down the road there in Anniston, and I kind of got hired to help the senior pastor finish well and bring some exciting ideas. So we ramped that church up. It grew by about 200 using my local hometown connections. Was there for 7 years, and then it was time to do something different. And leadership turned over, and they turned over a good bit of staff. So me and my wife waited before we jumped right back in, just worshiped with a sister church. And then a church kept reaching out once a month in the Keys. Hey, come down for a year, help us revitalize, and then you can go on and do whatever you want to do. And so, I just kept kind of shrugging it off like it's too far. I want to get away from family. All of our family's central there in Alabama. So on the fourth time, my wife's like, look, what do we got to lose? Let's just go. Let's do it. Let's let this be a part of our kids' childhood. And then being there just for a couple months, the last pastor that called me down, him and his wife went through some stuff, and he had to leave, and he left, and I interim the church for 6 months, offered to cut cancer as deep and wide as I possibly could, and if the church started to heal, I would entertain staying. If they wanted to let me go too, I would fully understand, but they wanted to keep me on, and now we've been there a total of 2 years, and it's Sugarloaf Key, which is a bedroom community of Key West, about 20 minutes north of Key West. So it's a cool little spot, very transient, a lot of campgrounds, not many people that live there, primarily a lot of snowbirds.
So I'm trying to get my key geography straight. North of Key West? How does that work?
It's jump a bunch of bridges, right? And it's really kind of north and east.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next time I go to QS, I'm going to have to go to Sugarloaf. I'm just going to have to.
Stop in.
I'm just going to have to try it out. So, what we want to find out from you, Bray, is we want to find out. Jess and I could end up talking Florida all the time, and that, I pastored in St. Petersburg. You probably know that from listening to some of the stuff. That's so far north of you, though. Right now it's a whole different area. But
Yes.
I want to hear, I want to hear about Florida, but I also want to hear about this revitalization. How many years ago was it?
Two. We started 2 years ago, and
Okay.
really, to be honest, the church had just it forgot what a win was.
Mm,
Leading up to the guy that left, there was just a lot of turmoil and a lot of aging out of the founding church members, and they needed a win. And when I came in there, the first thing I saw was a box that was in the parking lot, and it was tattered, it was washed out, and had bugs all over it. And I was like, I want to move this. And I started talking to a few guys there, help me get this out of the way. It's ugly. Let's just hide it somewhere. And they're like, well, that's the playground from Irma, the Hurricane Irma that came through and took out our playground. That's the replacement playground. And I said, well, then why don't we put it up? And we got the two only able-bodied men from our church to help me. And we built the playground, and they found out what a win was again. And we started
mm,
celebrating everything we possibly could, from the tattered box, as we call it, to just anything that we can think to celebrate. A guest coming through the door that we've never seen before. It'll be in my newsletter the next Monday. Hey, we had this many guests. How awesome is that?
that's awesome.
I
So,
love it.
real quickly, just as I love that you're starting to, and again, we're talking about celebrating as much as possible. What was the landscape of the church? I mean,
hmm
roughly attendance. Like, give us the quick little. Here's what I walked into.
Walked into about 25, and then when the pastor had to leave, it dropped to less than 10, and
Okay.
then my family, so maybe 10 to 15 on a Sunday morning. That was the landscape. Old
Mm,
facilities that were paid for, but
okay.
very drab.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Just people that visited, you knew the chances of them coming back were very, very small. You felt that. You felt that defeat in the air. And so I just said, we're gonna take some very calculated risks, but we're gonna take some risks because we have very little to lose. We were liquidating assets just to pay the bills, and the little kitty fund that they had was just going down monthly. We could literally see the end in sight. I mean, I knew how many months that we had left
Wow.
before we were out of funds.
And,
So
and were you able to communicate that to the church? Like, did they receive that?
they did. And within a short time, we were like, hey guys, this is exactly what we've got to have to keep operations going. And then we got some excitement with a little momentum. And within about 6 months, we were very blessed by a Snowbird member who basically gave a full year's worth of giving
Wow.
in year-end giving. And so God confirmed, hey, you're in the right place.
Hmm.
And we're like, okay, now we know we've got another 14 months of ministry. So we're really going to get after it now. So
Wow. So
yeah.
And
you talk about celebrating as much as possible. That became contagious so much that you had a Snowbird member who was like, "Okay, I see a vision here. There is a vision. It doesn't even matter what it is. There's something happening. I'm ready to give." And they
and
gave.
Exactly.
and in the midst of that, you're being very transparent with all the people. You're telling them the good, the bad, and a lot of the ugly that's going on. You're not holding back. You're not giving them downers because you're celebrating, but you're being very transparent. Hey, we got 14 months left. Oh, we got another year. We've got to be whatever. You wanted to make sure that you were communicating with full transparency.
Yeah, full transparency, which led to this Monday morning email that I would send out. I still do. I sent one out this Monday about 7:05. You get one. At first, it started off just a basic Google doc. It wasn't very engaging, but it's grown over time to be more engaging. Has like our week to week giving, things to celebrate, upcoming events, any kind of thing a church member might want to know about or get involved in. And so it keeps it before them, lets them know that not only do we have things that we're doing Sunday, but we have a vision that stretches way beyond just this week and this month. We have, an a forever vision till Jesus comes vision. Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, you had some hard things to communicate. Just a quick question. How did you differentiate, or how were you able to show the realistic picture of the church versus and not be pessimistic? So you're optimistic, but there's realism. How did you avoid, just as my dad say, being that Debbie Downer?
Well, we were fortunate enough that the staffing costs were so low in the Keys. You know, your housing is the majority of your compensation, and so the budget was very, very lean. And I pledged to be very, judicious and very steward the money that we did have very well. And so as we would add these strategic campaigns, first we wanted to kind of fix up the children's area around the playground, and that caused a little more momentum. And so the offering went up a little bit. And then when I said, hey, we're going to renovate the sanctuary, more money came in. And then some of the people stayed as they came in and saw the progress. And so we didn't have to stay in the negative too long before there was enough positive.
That's good.
But we did have to tell the people, well, to answer that question a different way, there came a date where I stopped bringing up the past. The people were so optimistic about the future that I remember back in maybe October, it's really a year past all the hard stuff. And one of my snowbirds, his sons came and visited, and I had mentioned how far we had come and how bad things were in a sermon. And they said, let's set a day where we're not going to talk about how bad things were, because look at how good things are.
That's good.
And so now we're looking very forward optimistically.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, you talk about organizations that can help a church move forward. Jess, our sponsor is one of those.
That's right. That's right. I know we thank Chaney Associates at the top of the podcast. We'll take just a moment here. We're super thankful for our other sponsor of this podcast, and they are Upward Sports. And so they are all about bringing that optimism to the church, as we've heard Bray talk about how God brought optimism. If you're looking for some optimism in your church and you want to start making an impact, go check out upward.org. Go to upward.org/church answers. We love partnering with them because they're all about helping you reach your community, and they love helping you reach your community through sports. And so they got a ton of sports: basketball, cheerleading, soccer, flag football, volleyball. They got running. They got pickleball. So don't let your perceived
pickleball.
Thank you so much for that. Don't let your perceived lack of facilities think you can't do sports. They can, and they're all about helping your church just reach your community and provide that optimism. Maybe it's that first win you need. Maybe that's your playground moment for your church, if you're listening to this.
Ooh,
to where you
great segue. You were listening to Bray.
Yeah.
Good job.
You go and help reach your community in a brand new way. So, Bray, we're excited. So far, we've talked about...
You're fading out just a little bit. Your audio is cutting out. So,
okay.
You're back now. You're
okay.
back. But,
okay. Sorry. That's what happened there. But yeah, love what's happening with Bray. Love what's happening in his church. So far, we talked about celebrating as much as possible. He's talking about being transparent with everyone. But you got to get people involved. Start recruiting volunteers.
The 60% principle, I think, is the gem. You have several gems in here, but this is the gem of the gems. And I don't know if I've seen it quite articulated the way you do it. Tell us what the 60% principle is.
Well, I'm sure I borrowed this from somebody who borrowed it from somebody, but the idea is that if someone can do it as 60% as good as you can do it, hand it off. And, I would argue that in a revitalization, you can do that a little easier because everybody's looking for something to do. They're excited at the fact that the church is under revitalization. In the churches that were established that I served in, I'm 60%. I might want it to be 75 or 80%, but at least in this context, the 60% worked. And that meant like door greeters. If you smiled more than you frowned, you might be a good door greeter, and I would work on that. If I come up and you look distracted or whatever, I would try to coach and same thing for people passing the plate. There's a teenage boy who's sitting there who's otherwise completely disassociated from the service. It's like, ask his father, hey, can he pass the plate Sunday? And so now he's involved. And the first time he does it, he shuffles his feet, doesn't make eye contact, nearly drops the offering plate. But, now he's a pro, age 14, and he is a pro plate passer.
Plate passer. I love
So
it.
there you go.
And you did a lot of freshening up of the space. Not big expense necessarily, but something that could be noticed right away.
Right away. We used your facility audit. I'm not sure what you call it exactly anymore, church facility audit. It may have taken on a couple of different names, but I told my leadership, I said, look around, how do you feel? I said, I'm paid to be here, and sometimes I don't even enjoy the space. You know, that was that hard conversation that you had behind the scenes with your key leadership. And so we had a little capital campaign. I said, let's do the chairs first because the chairs were like $6,000 for 100 chairs. And I said, let's set a goal of, let's try to raise the funds for this in 6 months. Well, in like 28 days, we had more than enough money to buy the chairs. And
Wow.
so we bought them. Of course, you had one or two people that were like, we don't want chairs. These pews are just fine. Yeah, yeah. But when I was able to communicate, 32 people gave an average of, whatever that number is, a couple $100 or whatever the number was. In under a month, the people want chairs. So we got the chairs. Then we did the carpet because, everybody has that 90s carpet. It's like, I feel like they had spilt coffee and then somebody came behind and spilt coffee systematically to make it look like a pattern. It was stained everywhere. And so I was happy to get that out of there. So, but 85% of the campus has been renovated, and we actively have a project of doing an upstairs apartment, which is the second apartment. We've already completed one for a pastor's retreat ministry downstairs. It's booked up through the rest of the year. That was a new ministry that got a lot of people jazzed and involved. So again, a lot of cool stuff.
Jess, get in line.
Yeah. I like, where do I sign up for this? I'll go to the Florida Keys. That's
I
awesome.
think we're out till April of next year. So it's
All right, book
yeah.
me for May. That's awesome. Again, even in your freshening up your space, you're going back and you're making this a win. You're going back, you're being transparent. You're doing your 60% rule. Like, everything you have is super intentional about getting people seeing what's ahead and celebrating the wins. And then you looked at yourself strategically. How can this be more than just a place for us? And so
Right.
that was a massive shift, outward focus. Even though it's like our pastor's going to come, maybe it's not directly, reaching the community, but the culture that you're building with that and saying this is more than just us, and then seeing like, hey, I love that stat that you're already booked up through April for
I
pastors who are
love it. I
coming and
love
You
it.
just
should
being a
you
part
should
of
have
it.
saw the room. It was a downstairs closet that was full of junk, and it was probably like a 20 by 16, and we were just like, I can't let this closet be a closet. It needs to be ministry. But I couldn't stick kids in there. This was birthed out of, hey, I know pastors like me that could barely afford a vacation at a time. Let's see if we can, and we're having a lot of co-vocational pastors get this opportunity to come down for nearly nothing. And we just sent a pastor back who is a vice principal at his school, and we're welcoming another pastor next week. It's just exciting to be able to tell every week, every Monday, hey, not only did we do ministry here, but we did ministry nationally. We
Mhm.
blessed a pastor in Arkansas, a pastor in South Carolina, and so it's
That's
cool stuff.
great. And you're co-vocational as well. You have to be.
And it's intentional. I've done full time ministry, but I'm also passionate about paying for my kids' college funds, and so this is a good way to make sure that my family has a good financial future.
And what is your other vocation?
A utilities administrator for the city of Key West. I was a school teacher the last 2 years though, which that really helped spurn the church up too. So
Oh, that's great.
That's awesome.
Hey,
You're in the community. Even you're using your co-vocation to reach the community. I love that. That's awesome.
tell us about your passion for guest cards.
I had a secretary at the last church who she came to my office, chewed me out about why I didn't turn in a guest card, and I dismissed her as a grumpy old lady, to be completely honest. And then one day she came back, did it again, and I finally asked the question, why do you care so much? And thankfully she took the time to say, this is a family that may not be saved, that we might could reach, and she gave me all the reasons why that data was useful. And so after that, I developed, which I'm sure I robbed it from somebody, but we did like 5 points of touch because we had multi-staff. And so we would take that guest card and we would farm it around strategically and have a month-long follow-up process. And so we do the same thing here. We ask, would you like coffee with the pastor? Would you like to get our newsletter? And these people may come in, for 2 weeks out of the year, but now they feel like they have a church in the Keys and the islands, and they send support, sporadically, and some of them now year round. So we even host, you probably are with your other son, we do snowbird membership, and we have a deacon to snowbirds that we just started, so that when our snowbirds are away and they're having surgeries and such, that we can at least get them a card or a email or a call.
I think if I recall correctly, Bray, we invited you to do one of these podcasts. Are you available to do another one right now?
Sure.
You got the time? I don't want to impose upon you.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, I would love to finish this out and just hear a little bit more about it from you. We'd planned, we said, okay, well, if he's able to do two, we're going to do two. So Jess, let's just anticipate him coming right back, and you go in and wrap it up with Cheney.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Bray, thanks for being on this first episode. We're looking forward to continuing to hear the story on the second episode with you. Again, we've been looking at an almost deceased church in the Florida Keys that has made some very strategic moves to see them become revitalized. And so Bray, thank you for being here. We're excited about having another podcast with you. But to wrap this one up, we do want to thank Cheney and Associates one more time. They do an amazing job of helping churches oversee their finances. They love coming alongside of you. They love partnering with you as a church leader. They know that stewardship matters. They know time is precious. They can help with both. All you have to do is go to CheneyAssociates.com/church answers and go send them an email, get a phone call, find out what they can do for you. They are helping over 1,100 churches across the United States. So maybe today you need to be 1101 or 1102. I don't know how many exactly. It's over 1,100. But jump in, help them learn some information about you, and they're going to tell you how they can help you. So go check out CheneyAssociates.com/church answers. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We look forward to continuing this conversation about this church in Florida Keys, Sugarloaf Church, that has seen a turnaround, and we're going to continue the story. We'll see you then.